Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today is September 1st, and I have the privilege and honor of talking with Chris Krimitsos today. I wanted to start this show off by giving a little bio of Chris before we jump into a conversation about his entrepreneur career and really, why, as you as a fan, as you as a follower, should know who Chris Krimitsos is as an entrepreneur. Chris brings a unique perspective of success, both hosting events as well as being event coordinators. And he understands the challenge of what an organizer needs to move the audience, having himself facilitate over 2,000 events that have brought together business owners toward economic growth under the umbrella called Tampa Bay Business Owners. He founded that in 2008 and has been on a roll ever since. The success regionally has springboarded his launch of national events, including Podfest Multimedia Expo, Vidfest, and many others. And so without further ado, I'd like to welcome Chris to the show. How are you today?
Matt, thanks for having me. I'm excited. This is awesome.
Yes, this is really cool. And it's an honor and privilege. You are such an influential person when it comes to video and podcasts. And so this video podcast is just an honor to you in terms of everything that you've been in terms of a visionary.
No, I'm excited to be on it. And, I've seen there's been a lot of iterations in the last 10 years, and it's amazing to see where it's come and where it's going. And there's a lot of innovation yet to come. So this is an exciting space to be involved in.
So to tell us about your story, we'd love to hear the deeper side of Chris in terms of how did you get to where you are today? Tell us about your entrepreneur journey.
So just a couple of Cliff Note kind of things. I've been a serial entrepreneur since I was a young kid. And it's just something I got to see. My uncles owned a restaurant. They did really well in New York, and they came from Greece. So they were immigrants to this country, did extremely well. And most of them did not go to school. So I realized entrepreneurship, there's some training that you probably need, but you learn as you go along. And I remember at 12 or 13 years old selling candy in school and making $20 a day. And my mom worked at a supermarket, so she was my supplier. I'd give her money. She'd go buy the food, the candy. And then I'd break things up and sell them per piece, a la carte. So wow. Matt, that's when I learned about government regulation, because I got in trouble.
Really?
During homeroom, I got in trouble. The principal came and got me. They threatened to suspend me, and I realized that I was competing with the supply that the school had. And I learned about rules and regulations and marketplaces very quickly, because another kid, his dad took him to the Price Club, which my mom was not willing to travel that far. And he got cheaper prices, and he was able to do bulk pricing. And here's what I learned that was really interesting. Even though he and I were selling the same packs of gum, because I was more hospitable, people were willing to pay double with me than him. I thought I was going to lose all my business, but there was something called customer loyalty. So in this little microcosm, I learned a lot about business, from government regulations to people, price, to loyalty, and to trying to differentiate, all in when I was 13 years old.
Yeah, well, you graduated fifth grade, and you're like, okay, I'm ready for the business world.
It was a really unique scenario, but fast forward, did a lot of different iterations like that as a kid, learning. Somewhere around my late 20s, I kind of had things figured out of what I wanted to accomplish, and I stopped chasing money, and I started. I would always have monetary goals, but I didn't have goals that felt good about helping people. And when I shifted that and I aligned them together, I created what you kind of talked in the bio, community building, and I started building communities. And that got me on the path of facilitating community through thousands of events. And I've been part of this technology. I've always been enthralled with technology, so I've been part of the technology revolution. I mean, I'm now studying on blockchain and crypto, and I'm getting really involved in that as well.
That's awesome. So from 2008, you started the Tampa Bay Business Owners. How many members did it grow to?
We started with 20, and then we kept doubling over a year till we had over 300 members, active paying dues members. And then we had something like 150, 200 events a year. I lose track. It was a lot. It was to the point where we just, it was tough. I had 5 years. I remember once going home at 5 o'clock because of, I don't know, I double scheduled or something. And I still remember thinking, why is everybody walking their dog at 5 o'clock? And I thought there was something wrong with my neighbors. And then I went inside. My wife was like, normal people come home at 5 o'clock. Like I had not been home in 5 years before 9 p.m.
Wow.
I had no clue why they were all, I thought they were taking a half day off of work. And then I realized, like, you're the odd man out, not them. They're doing what most people do. Quality of life.
The sun is out. Your neighbors are friendly. They're walking the dogs. The mailman's coming around.
So that was a wake up call for me because even though I didn't know it at the time, it made me understand, like, wait a minute, you haven't come home before, like after the sun went down is when I got home always for 5 years. Something was off there. So I had to adjust. And but I do remember thinking they were all nuts, not realizing I was the one that was kind of out of balance, so to speak.
So how did you transition from the Tampa Bay business owners to the Podfest? Tell me about that journey and kind of the evolution of how that worked.
So I was basically doing Podfest for fun. So Tampa Bay business owners, we had all these local business owners, and I started playing around with podcasting in 2013, and I started doing workshops for it.
Okay.
And I did the first ever Podfest in 2015. Okay. And what was odd about Podfest was it was the only thing I've ever promoted where people called me up out of the blue wanting to give me thousands of dollars to sponsor it.
Really?
Yeah. So as the
first year out?
Yeah, they would call me up and say, how much can I give you to sponsor? Or where's your sponsor? And I'm like, do you know about my event? It's the first year. Yeah, we know about your event. We're looking for places to put money, and you're one of them. So locally, I'd have to beg a local person to buy a booth, even though I would put hundreds of people in front of them. This was a very weird, unique experience, and this is the power of the niche, especially an emerging niche. So I realized there was a huge opportunity. So a couple of years later, I was able to sell Tampa Bay business owners to someone and transition full-time into Podfest. And we've doubled Podfest growth year over year, and I've implemented my own philosophy of Start Ugly, and it's actually put us in hyper. Yeah, thank you. Hyper growth, honestly. Well, so when you're the author of that book, you have to adopt the philosophy. So I have to adopt it in everything we do, and it's literally put us into hyper growth.
So Podfest, this is the 5th year. You just had your 5th year in Orlando, correct?
I believe it was 6. I'd have to add the numbers.
Okay, yep. And this was your book in 2019, and this is kind of, I know I loved it. I bought a couple copies and gave it out to friends as well. But what made you write the book?
I've always wanted to have a message, and years ago I started telling people to start ugly because they would ask you. Here's a great case study. There's a gentleman that in Orlando. His name is Lou Mangello, and he has WDW Radio, Walt Disney World Radio, and he literally has millions of people that listen to him. And they always ask him, what's the microphone you're using? And he always says, this is what he says. That's like asking Michelangelo, what is the paintbrush you're using? So it's really about what are you doing and how are you getting it out there? So for me, I wrote Start Ugly to kind of tell people, like, just get started. Don't get hung up on like, oh, like with you, Matt, you're doing a great job. But if someone's looking at you, they're saying, I can't start where he started. Obviously, that's not how it worked. You did a lot of trial and error before you got to this point. Right. So Start Ugly is just a philosophical thing that I was sharing with people. And I noticed when I would share it, people would mention it to me a year later. So I knew it had something about those words have a stickiness. So then I tried, I don't like telling people what to do. I'm not that kind of person. Right. So I tried to find a story that kind of had the lesson embedded in it. And then I found this amazing old school story, a little part of it. And then I made my own story out of it. It was the seed that got planted.
Yeah. Part of being in the entrepreneur community is just talking with a lot of people like yourself, and especially the entrepreneur community in Tampa. We just have so many people who are willing to start ugly. And eventually 2 or 3 years later, like you said, they finally get home a little bit before 5 and they're like, I'm successful. I'm home before 5.
Yeah, no, it's true. I relish getting home now by 5:30, but it's such an odd thing.
So what does it mean to be an entrepreneur for you? I mean, we have so many great people as part of the entrepreneur organization in our chapter, but, I feel like it's changed over the past 5 to 10 years. When I was starting my businesses 14 years ago in 2006, it was more of a kind of get through, innovate a little bit, hard work, a lot of it. Now I feel like entrepreneurship is more 50-50 in terms of innovation and hard work. What are your thoughts on that?
If you're not paying attention to innovations, you're going to be left out in the cold eventually. Maybe not right away if you found a good niche and that technology hasn't innovated yet in your space. But if you're not innovating, I think innovation has always been part of entrepreneurship. But I think what's happening in today's world, the speed of innovation is not like anything. Like you talked about what I've seen in the last 10 years in podcasting. If you look at iterations of innovation, the 8-track had a nice run before the cassette tape came out.
20 or 30 years.
Yeah, now since the iPod, if you go fast forward from there, these different files, what I believe, and I'll wrap this in a nutshell for people to understand. People look at Facebook, Google, Apple, give you 5 top companies that we all know that basically your cloud storage goes through these. Microsoft, they own social, LinkedIn, put all those companies. To me, those companies, the way I look at it, they're ABC, NBC, CBS when
Absolutely.
TV networks first came out.
Absolutely.
We're about to go into the cable era, and that's like the TikToks, all these extra things. And I'm mentioning like the consumer ones people know, but there's other business to business ones that we use. Dropbox. We're about to go into the cable television,
the paid services.
Yeah, we'll have 30, 40 other outliers, and you're seeing like StreamYard, all these different things, medium services. But what's going to happen after that, and it's going to happen very quickly, is we're going to explode into the into like what the internet did for TV and media. We're going to explode into this different atmosphere with hundreds of thousands of choices. I know we think we have them now, but it's going to get even crazier, and that's going to come out of the crypto community. All of those advances will come out of the crypto community because they're working on privatizing your own personal cloud for your house and so literally what I got to see this past weekend is, Matt, you'll have your own personal cloud that connects your business to your house, and I can access it, and you'll be able to watch everything, and it'll be your own storage. So that's just going to spurn even more innovation. So that's right around the corner.
Yeah, I actually had a cloud in my house 5 years ago, but it wasn't crypto by any means. It was just more of a storage unit that had that I could remote in. It was a little remote desktop. But I agree. I think it's going to be easier and easier.
Well, just so you know, where it ties in with the crypto is the blockchain off of Bitcoin. From what I understand, it will tie all that in, so no one will be able to see your purchases or your transaction history. So it'll be truly private end to end. So I'm a layman, so please, I'm trying to translate. I really did. I only understood 10% of what I just learned. So.
Hey, but you're teaching it. You're restating it.
That's my powers. I can make it sound easy, but I don't know how it works.
We need like a credit explanation. Like, I am not a crypto specialist.
No. I'm just talking about the blockchain technology, but it falls off of Bitcoin. So it's interesting.
So you had a definition of podcasting that you wanted to kind of talk about. What is that definition? Does it tie into the kind of the leaping forward that you're talking about in the technology of the future?
Yeah, so podcasting is on-demand, episodic content that is searchable in nature through the internet. So a lot of people think of it as an interview show. It's not even close.
No,
that's part of the definition. Yeah, that's part of it. That's part of it. But it's on-demand, searchable audio, episodic in nature, search through the internet. So it's painting with words via audio, and the opportunity is ginormous. So you have different modalities of podcasting, and now with all these voice activated
text, voice to text,
everything, the Alexas, that whole world, voice to everything. It doesn't matter, whatever it is. We're going to be, instead of searching first off, you realize that your generation, you're a little bit younger than me, so you had computers earlier than I did. So you probably typed pretty fast.
Do you see correct? I'm pretty bald though. At least you have hair.
We're same peer group. But you probably type pretty fast.
Yes. We had keyboarding. I remember first grade keyboarding the hand positions. Yeah.
Okay, but you do realize that the 20-year-olds that are coming out now can't type because they type with their thumb. Yeah, you already know this. So a lot of people don't realize, like, this next generation, they can't type because they're typing with their thumbs.
Yeah.
So like,
or the iPad, they're like,
everything's done for them, so they can't like necessarily type as fast as someone on a keyboard.
Yeah.
So that shows you how the technology is already changing. Eventually, it's going to be just talking to the computer and telling it what to do.
Yeah, I feel
is
like
one of the modalities. We'll see how that goes.
I feel like, iPad has always had that little button that you can talk to for sending text messages. Siri has always been responsive, but now my parents have a remote control for their cable box. So they could say, find Top Gun, the movie, and they'll like find it, it'll just start playing.
And the answer for marketers, and they're already asking themselves, is how do we make our clients stick out when there's not a search that I look at and click on? So it's people talking to the computers. Like, how do you stand out in that? So basically, as companies, we got to figure out how we could add a value-added apps that correlate with our companies as offerings, so we come up in the search before they even know they need us. So that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, I heard a couple of good podcasts. One about investing in Google and where Google is going to go in 5 to 10 years. And the idea of search is so powerful, but it's going to have to change. Like you're talking about search based on voice content, based on audio files. How will they be able to translate that? But more importantly, when you don't have options like Netflix, you have the 62 movies that are recommended to you. If you don't have that interaction, how is those big services going to recommend shows or videos or content or websites to you, And so it's going to be a change in philosophy, which I think is where you were heading at the beginning, which is lots of silos instead of the big 5 non-cable channels.
And Netflix is only the big one, but that'll fraction, like you said. It's going to come down to the influencers. It's going to be one of the big answers. Influencers.
So you're a big influencer. It'll come down to you then.
So I'm a weird one. I'm like a B2B, the influencer of the influencer. So it comes down to which influencers you'll tap into, and that's basically how you're going to get your marketing. Either you're an influencer or you're paying to ride an influencer's coattails. That's kind of we're already seeing that, obviously, but it's going to be a lot more pronounced the next couple of years.
Speaking of influencing influencers, what are your challenges and what do you love doing? Like, what motivates you when it comes to either motivating motivators or kind of what helps you get out of bed? What excites you?
So like I just got back from this conference on cryptocurrency and they didn't talk about money. So it motivated me that they're using the blockchain to help people. So these individuals are actively hiring people in Venezuela who have no government structure and they're feeding their families via Bitcoin. Wow. And then they're teaching their neighborhoods how to get on the internet, and they have generators that they feed fuel to so they could have internet for a couple hours so they could do work for people in the US. So to me, that motivates me that we have this decentralized system that doesn't rely on human encroachment, that's protected by the world, so to speak, and we could help other people. So for me, it's always helping other people. And if you ask most people, if they're not completely nuts, that's basically, it's helping someone, whatever that is. Most business owners do it because we want to help others in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. So for me, I love helping connect people, connecting them to the resources. And I always liken what I do is I'm like an airport, I'm a hub, and I bring brands and people together under my hub. And my hub is Podfest, Vidfest, and there's like a lot of other events under that hub, and we bring all these individuals together.
Cool. Very good. So let's shift a little bit and talk about entrepreneur organization of the Tampa Bay chapter. So EO is obviously a global organization, 14,000 members. Let's talk about what's going on in Tampa Bay. You are the president, incoming president. You're president right now, starting July 1st. So what's the climate? What? Tell me about climate. I don't know what I was saying there, but tell me, what's your thoughts on the EO chapter today?
So EO Entrepreneurs Organization Tampa Bay is probably, I believe, one of the most energetic chapters that I've seen. They're all phenomenal, but the Tampa group has something special. The stars have aligned, the right people have come together, and it started a way back when this group of people got together, and I got to jump on board and help ride a wave that was created a few years back. And now we're growing. We're helping local entrepreneurs. We're helping the community. And our educational events are amazing. And the groups are amazing. We have a mastermind groups called forums within EO that are provided to the members. So it's a really amazing thing because EO is facilitated by the members for the members, which allows for some exceptional, extraordinary things to happen. And I think with our group, there's been a lot of that because we've not only led within Tampa, we're leading people outside the area as well.
And so what are the goals for you as president this year? I mean, our board is amazing. We have some of the best people, I think, entrepreneurs in general on our board. We're rolling forward in terms of accomplishing goals on a monthly basis, and I think, your leadership has been really impressive so far in the first 2 months, but where are the next 10 months going?
So right now we're setting a goal for growth, and it's already happening. So we have members coming on board. You probably know this, Matt, but people always congratulating me. Half the time we don't even know because our group is so good. People like, we have Naeem bringing people in, or someone else is referring. And I'm like, why you Oh, we heard through the EO system that you guys brought in how many people or whatever. I'm like, yeah, we're just all working. But it's when you have a ship that everybody's doing their part, it doesn't feel like we're all just doing our piece, and it becomes Voltron. So this group is set for a huge course of growth. We have really amazing educational things that we're setting up. And I do believe that we'll be almost double the size, if not more, by next year in June. But the key is we're doubling by bringing on really amazing people, getting to know each other, and helping each other up the ladder of success. And honestly, more than the EO members tend to be very driven and successful. But what I really love about it is how much they want to help each other, get to know one another. And when someone needs a resource, a member always has something like, hey, check out this, or talk to my CPA if you need any help. It's a really great network when you're by yourself as an entrepreneur for a group to have your back.
Yeah, we actually started to have our social events again, and it's been just such a great experience just connecting with people. And it's almost, how you had those friends in college where you break away from the summer and you come back and you like pick right up where it is, or from high school or wherever. It felt like the same thing. It was like, oh, I haven't seen you in 4 months, but we're friends. Like, how are things going? How's your family? How's your life? And it was a breath of fresh air when we started to have our social events again. With protection and in terms of distancing and following all the regulations, but it's just been overall a good time to kind of get back in. And one of the things that we had with our forum, I don't know if you guys did that, Chris, is we actually had meetings every 2 weeks during kind of the shutdown. Did you guys have increased frequency?
We were just checking to each other, but I think we only had one virtual event. Everything was in person. So we made it a point to get together and find a room big enough for us to socially distance, or I should say we weren't socially distanced, physically distancing our bodies, because we were socializing. So it's just a tight-knit core group, and we did what we would do, which I think you saw this, the whole EO network did it. Anytime someone found out about the bank programs or local programs in the forums, we'd be emailing each other, say, hey, check this out, or the resources were amazing in a time when you needed to know what was going on.
Right. Yeah, our forum, we did like every 2 weeks, we did some Zoom meetings, and really it was just, it was much more like a shorter version, but it was really just ability to connect and guide through. And, almost all of our members came out ahead in terms of just strategically planning for growth and strategically, making sure that we weren't harmed as much as possible. So that's always a challenge from that standpoint.
Yeah, it was nice to see everybody come together and help each other. And also, there was county programs that people in our local community could cue everybody into. So there's a lot of stuff that was going on.
One of the things that I saw today and this week actually is now that school's come out. Is your kids going to school?
They're in daycare, so they've been going the whole time.
Oh, they have. Okay. Yeah, the schools around me started to go back in. And so it was really good feeling to see kids going to school. I mean, it was just like kind of a normalcy, even though like traffic was worse and, cars are backed up. The fact was that, hey, we're kind of, getting back to school. So.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I mentioned to my wife, it feels like certain things are going back to normal. And she had mentioned, like, because we live right by an elementary school, she goes, kids are back in school and you are feeling that sense of normalcy. I know it's abnormal times, but you're right. Things are starting to, I believe that we have a few more months to go. Who knows how many total, but we're at the opposite end of the, like, counting down the days at this point, if that makes sense. And it's going to go quick.
Yeah. I think it will go very quickly. And I think we're probably within the next month or two, even the gym, like I was at the worked out today, and like, it's just kind of getting more normal, and I don't know, it's just overall good feeling. So can't complain about that. So anyway, what else do you have to talk about today in terms of anything you want to share? I know this is your time to kind of talk a little bit about your businesses, anything coming up on your timeline in terms of Podfest, Vidfest, CK Productions, anything that you want to share with us?
Yeah, so Matt, with Podfest, we transitioned into virtual events so we got really fortunate in that this year, pre-COVID, we were the last event of our kind to go on. And that Sunday, when we were done, I remember having like a sigh of relief. We were impacted because a lot of people couldn't make it out of their airports to come to our place out of country, like Finland. We had a couple people in different European countries.
Yeah.
And there were some people that had vacation in Italy, and they were like, listen, we don't feel comfortable coming there in case we have it from the UK. So I remember like dealing with a lot of that kind of stuff. But we weren't impacted as far as we just didn't make as much money, if that makes sense. So like we were very blessed. So we're very grateful. But we did say, you know what? Let's start playing in the virtual space and let's see if we could make an impact. We were going to do virtual anyways. So we did a test, a 1-week test, and we had over 874 of our people show up for a 1-day virtual. It was a pre-recorded. I was so scared to do live streaming. I got onto StreamYard. I was testing it out. Unlike you, I didn't know. Like I was putting you know how you're scrolling the website underneath me?
Yeah.
I was scrolling like the graphics that StreamYard was saying, here is where you put the website. And people would see that and they were giving me compliments how good I was at using StreamYard. But it was definitely a start ugly. And then we decided, this is all about going big. I have a very good friend, my buddy Gabe. He said, I said to him, hey, we had over 874 people and 3 days notice of marketing time, and they showed up. And he goes, well, why don't you go big? I go, well, how much bigger can I go? He goes, why don't you try and set a Guinness World Record? And I laughed it off thinking it was nuts. He goes, you always talk about it. He goes, what's the worst that could happen? Call him. He goes, you're the start ugly guy. So I said, okay. So I called them and they said, we're interested in this record. We're doing virtual records. Podcasting is very current. So we figured out a record over a 1 week's time. And we set over the summertime to do a Guinness World Record because we're starting ugly. And we met what they said. Right now we're in review. We were official. We're in review. So I'm working on the review process as they review the record. But they said we would have to hit 5,000 attendees, which we did, 5,000, over 5,000 registered. But it was an amazing experience, Matt. I'll show you some stats that I went through this morning. We had over 46 countries represented.
Wow.
Over 45 states out of the 50 represented. 4.4 million, to be exact, 4,454,442 million impressions for our sponsors. 1.9 million Facebook impressions of this event. 59,760 messages between attendees. 968 pictures were posted by attendees on the app. And it goes on and on. We're creating infographics. Yeah, we're creating. But I was scared. I'm not going to lie to you. If this would work, because a lot of people hear virtual, they don't realize like we invested a lot of money to put this on, and it worked. Because when you have a freemium event, if you don't have,
right,
and we used a bunch of we used Hoova, we integrated. We had to upgrade Zoom webinars, like big ones, because we didn't have anything big enough for it. So it was an amazing experience, and I'm glad that we believe that this event doubled the size of our live event next year.
So this is the one that you're talking about, the Podfest Global Summit?
Yeah, what you're looking at, we just finished
August
it up
10th.
summer.
Yeah.
And we rushed it out. I had a 5-week lead time to prepare for this.
I remember that.
And
you were kind of MIA during that time. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. And the reason is we knew that when people got back to school, just things change if you know your habits. Yeah. Somewhere in August, people were still kind of siloed at home, and we thought this is a good time to give them something to get onto, and that's what happened.
Yeah. Good. Well, congratulations. Hopefully you did break the Guinness World Record. We're going to celebrate with you once you officially get
I'll announce once we get, hopefully, they're in review.
Also, I found this website, chriskrimitsos.com. And I was just curious, who are you talking to in this group?
So this was in South Florida. We had just released, we made the official documentary about the medium of podcasting. And it was about 100 people in West Palm Beach area, Fort Lauderdale. And we were in a co-work space. There was like one of those like where they left the studs up. And, yeah, really cool, trendy space.
Yeah.
And we were announcing like, here's what we're doing with the movie. I believe we had just released it. We're about to, and I'm wearing my Messengers T-shirt. Those were very fun memories. So that movie we got distribution out of LA. We distributed it on Amazon Prime and a bunch of other networks. Beat out some Hollywood movies in the pre-launch week, and then we've had thousands of people watch it. Now we took it off. The distributor we did a deal with went bankrupt, so then we took it off of. It's okay. I mean, honestly, Amazon pays you a fraction of a penny, so you really don't make money unless you have Hollywood clout behind you and the right people. Yeah. So we did it for the passion of helping people get onto podcasting. But now it's on YouTube. We're about to crest over 1,000 views, and we're just very proud of that 59-minute movie. And I do a lot of speaking. Like even now with COVID, I have 3 speaking gigs this month alone.
Really?
That's awesome. So yeah, I love speaking. So I get, but I've been doing it. I'm one of those people I would do it for free all these years, and now like people know and they invite you and you get paid and all that stuff. So it's been very, very good.
Good. And then the last, let's see, 2 more websites I found. VidFest, of course. I know we touch base on it. What's the difference between VidFest and Podfest, and how would you distinguish them?
So I know you're doing a podcast and you have video, but remember when podcasts first started, there wasn't a lot of video applications to it. VidFest is for YouTubers, and the YouTubers generally, it's highly edited content. So on the VidFest banner, it would be YouTubers, Twitch streamers, online course creation, and different things like the TikTok would be on a VidFest banner. Podcasting would be, think about people like Joe Rogan, even though they do have it on right. On YouTube, most of it's like Spotify, Apple. Downloads come through audio playing services. Right. So 2 different worlds, but we merge them together under I got to come up with an umbrella name for the event because now we have like 10 different brands under the one umbrella.
Chris Fest. There you go.
No, multimedia fest, but they used to call it New Media, Matt. You'll laugh. 10 years ago, there was a conference called New Media Expo. The challenge is this is no longer new media. YouTube, podcasting, it's known as the main medium that people use.
Yeah. And the last one, here's your book, Start Ugly, on Amazon, or I just picked Amazon because it was the first one that came up.
Yeah, that's where we recommend people to get it.
So overall, very, very good. Well, Chris, it was a pleasure to get to know you a little bit better. I'm glad we were able to have this conversation. I'm excited about Tampa in terms of, not only the growth on an industrial standpoint, technology standpoint, but, every time I look, I feel like more businesses and entrepreneurs are moving here as well.
I think together as a group, we could literally impact our community in a very positive light. And I think I agree with you that Tampa has got so many people moving in and so much talent. EO is like an area where you can meet a lot of those people, and they have a lot of connections to the outside entrepreneurial world. So if anyone's interested, let us know. We'd love to have you. EO Tampa Bay is an amazing group, and I'm grateful, Matt, that you're doing these interviews. And thank you for having me as your first. Really honored.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris, for your time. We'll talk to you later.
Bye, Matt.